Racing Hearts, read by the author. We call it the airing cupboard, the South Auckland chapel where I counsel former doctors suspended for breaking down on the job. You see, I'm a screw-up just like them. I'm on probation from the hospital's review board, and I don't know if I'll ever be allowed to walk the wards as an anaesthesiologist again. It's because I raced too hard and I fell in love with a doctor as competitive as me, and we both fell in love with danger until one of us fell in too deep. The Spiritual Centre is the official name of our dusty, echoey little wooden church meeting room, though everyone calls it the airing cupboard. We're on the edge of the hospital, historic chapel where they used to encourage us troubled clinicians to come and pray, actually, just a few years ago, when our resident medical training got too stressful. It's always been the place people bring their problems. These days the chapel is given to us on Tuesdays and Thursdays for the counselling sessions that I run, reserved for my flock of fucked up physicians, people I've been tasked with healing. Middlemore's hospital towers frown down through the chapel windows in judgment as Claire Manarimbona recites the short story I made each class member write as a therapeutic exercise. Claire is a polite, demure young Rwandan oncologist, outsider by accent, outsider by the aberrant behaviour on the notes I was given when she was referred to my counselling course. She's young, unsurprisingly. They are all young, the 8 dysfunctional doctors on my program, all 25-ish, all bulletproof, until they weren't. We listen politely to Dr. Claire Manarimbona while we sit on 6 church pews we've arranged in a hexagon. Creative writing is one of the tools that I use in the airing cupboard to discuss each person's self-sabotage objectively. Everyone is in here because of addiction, failure, flaws, obsessive behaviour that caused some problem on the wards, overworked, underesteemed, external disgraces, internal imbalances. 1 in 10 doctors destroy themselves, I remind them at the start of each meeting. Whatever the freakishness, the fuck-up, I persuade my sceptical young damaged ducklings that it's no different from the need to win weekend cycle races, the need to climb mountains, complete 15-mile ocean swims. All doctors are extreme achievers. It's just that most hit high, while all of us here, we have dug low. Dr. Choi leaked sensitive financial documents about executives' bonuses to the Herald. Dr. Chimamanda sewed her dropped earring inside a patient because she was sleepwalking in theatre because she had been up all night sweating on a treadmill trying to keep her weight under 37 kilograms. Dr. Anson, shifting his shaky, shivering limbs, can't exist without the 17 carbon, 19 hydrogen and 3 oxygen atoms which make up the hydromorphone dilaudid. I told the silly fool he couldn't avoid detection by dropping the stuff directly into his eyes. I didn't tell him I know everything there is to know about opiates. Dr. Anderson hoarded teeth, bones, kneecaps he took out of the trash. Dr. Moana Nui stole 120 mils of an 8-year-old's blood because it was RH null, rarest in the world, miraculously untouched by all 61 possible antigens, sacred, precious. Dr. Van Rood, blopping his dugong body across an entire pew, was caught stealing cheesecake from patients' meals, and while he listens to my therapeutic seminars, I fantasize about smearing antifungal cream on his body to treat the pityriasis versicolor in his sweaty fat folds. I want to shower him myself, sponge bath all these people. I want to fill their holes, sate their crazed desires, just care for these people like I was trained to. Sigh. I listened to Claire's story with my arms folded tight against my ribs, still as skinny as when I started med school, though my hair is thinning now and my beard is going silver and shiny like lizard skin. 30 years on Earth, though I reckon I've lived twice that long. I study Claire as she approaches the end of her 3-page confessional with the heat pump humming behind her, ignoring Claire's cliched lines about work being excessively stressful, blah blah blah, keening my ears for any mention of the thorn in her soul, for anything she addresses about her primordial hurt. Dr. Claire Manarambona is specky, studious, her shiny black braids as tightly coiled as she is. I like that she's still more Rwandan than Kiwi. She hasn't been tainted by this country's high-achieving hypocrisy yet. She's innocent, she's an outsider, and the fuck-up failure that brought her here is relatively minor. The young doctor has been experiencing symptoms that her lawyers have told the review board are attributable to a medical condition they cannot sack her for. Hypersensitivity, apparently. Too much empathy, generated by the dorsolateral and frontopolar regions of the prefrontal cortex. What else could explain her falling under the charm of a vaccine skeptic activist and securing clean phlegm to help patients pass COVID tests, and then become Middlemore's go-to anti-vax helper, altering patient records and nearly destroying her career because she couldn't say no to vulnerable people? Silly angel. Like everyone in the room, she's trying to find out why her 20,000 hours of service hasn't earned her a halo. Why the board of reviewers has determined that she needs fixing. Dr. Manarambona finishes her story, and we all clap. She plants her butt primly upright on her hard wooden pew. Most of my doctors, when they've finished reading, give me a look to say, is what I read out quantifiably correct? Can I just get back to work already? This one's unblinking face, though, is asking another question. How'd you get the black eye, doctor? I wriggle out of everyone's gaze. I resume authority and begin drawing an oak tree on the whiteboard, roots representing your parents and your formative culture, the trunk representing your stable centre, various limbs and branches to show things in life that have reached narrow ends or are lopsided or are cracked and diseased and straining the roots. I walk behind my hexagon of broken doctors as if we were playing Duck, Duck, Goose. Because we skipped the part of our development where we became at peace with our human flaws, it's inevitable that we screw up, I tell them. Deep down, we want to get deregistered by the board. No shame in admitting it, guys. We mess up, but they don't sack us because they don't want us to quit the hospital, because then they would lose power over us. So the review board sends you here because you're a sensitive person trapped in an insensitive profession and you don't know a way out. They are almost getting it. Resistant looking, though. Arrogant. Listen, the way out is to complete one more session, and then I can look at signing you guys off. My watch indicates 11:01. That's our hours done for the day. I send them clopping away. Wooden church floorboards fall silent. Dr. Manarambona hovers at the door, rummages in her handbag, and returns to me. She holds up a tube against my eye. It's concealer. Damn it. The bruise must be showing through. I take the concealer. It's coffee-coloured. It's her shade. No match for my strawberry yogurt Southland skin. And we burst into laughter, warming the room. This girl, this woman, this professional, I hope people like me never corrupt her. She doesn't leave. Stands there, concerned. The same excess of empathy that got her in trouble in the first place. She asks if someone hit me. I ask her if she's ever tried buying crack on K Road with a stethoscope around her neck. Poor thing has no idea she's perched atop a hydroslide with me, and I'm about to pull her down. I ask if she has got a spare hour. I tell her to take a seat, and let me explain. 3 years left. Auckland was the place to go and study medicine when you hit 18 and wanted to get out of Gore. Epic concerts, pounding nightclubs, fresh faces, new colours of people. I'd say goodbye to my tired, fading father. Goodbye to the lichen growing on the same old street signs. I would say goodbye to my sad white bread farm town. I would conquer Auckland. It'd be lonely at the front of the pack, but I'd been an overachiever in my hometown, and it had sucked, having no one competitive enough to race against. Athletics champ, ducks of the school, mathematics Olympian. Marathons in spring and summer. Long legs and a big brain I was always apologising for. Lonely was what I was used to. After 4 initial years of lectures and exams and parties, Auckland Uni Med School attached my group to Middlemore when my cohort started turning 23. Chucked us in the deep end for our postgrad pre-internship final 3 years. Middlemore Hospital was a factory. Car parks big enough to get lost in, billowing chimney. 1,000 beds, 30 theatres, 3 sites, 5,000 staff. Smokestacks and dirty delivery trucks, and poor people sleeping in their cars outside the ED. As many challenges as you could ask for. The place was like a dirty, stressed-out Disneyland, man. Me and the other pre-intern residents were moved into this historic Otahu brick and stone hall of residence near a Samoan butchery, a Rarotongan bottle shop, and an Afghani bakery. We didn't hang in the dorms much. Everyone was always off on their scooters and bikes, getting in their hours at the hospital. Crazy how busy it was on the wards. Endless moving columns of nurses and healthcare assistants, dietitians, occupational therapists, radiogs, surgeons, pharmacists, physios, phlebotomists. Every few metres I'd encountered tradies in overalls too, heat pump servicemen that at first I thought were my dad, like he'd somehow followed me up. My dad had been a useful man at Gore Hospital, long shifts. Barely ever took off his overalls. He'd been a course staffer, respected, before what happened, before the shame. Being a 5th year at Middlemore was all immersion, observation, following stories from floor to floor, ED to OT, and all these obscure little meeting rooms with 70s wallpaper I could never find again. We sat in on consultations, lectures, debates. Hell, we sat in on recruitment interviews, I think, just to scare us into understanding how squeaky clean you needed to be to work in hospital. South Auckland was a relief to go out, and I liked how crusty and rough and straight up the streets were. Otara, Otahu, old school, honest, OG. Crusty old Māori blokes called to us as we walked past their trolleys outside the veggie market, pushing praise and blessings on us, as if we were real legitimate docs. It felt good, away from med school's ivory towers, out in the raggedy end of Auckland, bursting with colour and life and hope. And it felt double as good to me, as a Peter Pan-faced white boy with a naive, tangy Southland accent, thrilled to become a superstar in the South Pacific city. The minor birds, the taro, the kumara, the remana bread, the islander kids rapping in the parking lot, the Samoan chow mein in the hospital cafe, palm trees, leopard slugs. Even the tropical storms felt fresh. Whether or not I got to actually dispense advice or try to diagnose something basic or install a cannula and morphine drip in a patient without pricking them, I felt like a saint after every shift. We all did, glowing without drugs. Although we always got shit-faced on alcohol, at least twice a week. Every girl in my class was at least an 8 out of 10, all perfect diets and tight skin, all stylish clothes paid for by their parents. When we had time to party, we'd chant all the way down the street to the Otara Tavern for karaoke and pool, and even the gangsters and gambling addicts gave us approving nods, grateful to have us heal South Auckland, buying us jugs, praising us for being saints in training. I even got hit on once or twice by women when they noticed I had a pocket full of pens and an ID badge saying doctor and a stethoscope that I always forgot to pull off my neck. I was cute, innocent looking, boyish acne pox on my cheeks, dorky hair like a pile of straw, trusting naive face, awkward wide shoulders. Working 80 hours a week was all good. People in my halls would call you a softcock if you did anything less. Down in Gore, where I grew up, I'd smashed every exam at St. Peter's, and I played centre in the A-team for the inter-school soccer, only child, no bros to haul me up, and I still found time to get merit on all my exams and lead out front in most athletics. Apart from my parents getting ruined or whatever, my life was mostly lucky. Dad was Gore Hospital's maintenance specialist and Mum was a nurse, paediatrics. Dad got the job done, did he? What? Marching from the laundry to the server room to the mains, going up in the air ducts, crawling under pipes on his belly. My old man was always looking for toys to bring home to his special little boy. So he would fill the trunk of his car with discarded medical bits and bobs, tubes and bottles and beautiful boxes, gleaming organ dishes, strange scissors, whatever plastic-wrapped, sterile weirdness the hospital dumped each month. I would play with beakers and pipettes and rubber and plastic in my room, amazed the tubes were designed to disappear inside people, thinking about the miles of intestine in our tummies. I would read the anatomy books that Mum would leave on the kitchen table too, fascinated to learn the dark roads everyone has inside them. I did bio at school, plus a correspondence paper in chemistry. I aced them, got a scholarship. My mates punched me, called me a nerd, told me to stop racing. Dad and Mum were super proud though, always telling people in the pews at Mass that I was going to go stratospheric. Gore had just one roundabout and 2 sets of traffic lights. Same people in the supermarket every damn day. No strangers, everyone Irish or Scottish, cousins or in-laws. Fewer formalities in the hospital. So Handyman Dad would take me in after school on days when Mum couldn't be home with me. He would show me fascinating surgical tools being washed, gleaming bone saws, crab-clawed crimper forceps, speculums so shiny I could count my pimples in the stainless steel. He would show me patients too. Show me how much of healthcare was extreme stress and then extreme rest. Pointing through the glass at people sleeping on heavenly white cloud beds after operations. He would go into the pharmacy and open the dispensary with the skeleton key, and we'd marvel at little glowing bottles of bliss that kept people from waking up screaming during surgery. He would challenge me to pick up a bottle and pronounce the dreamy name of each anaesthetic. Told me it'd be essential to spell them in a few years come test time. If I was killing time in the hospital after school, waiting for nurse mum or fix-it dad to finish their shift, I would explore empty, dim operating theatres. I would stroke the beds. I would imagine what had led to the waste baskets being filled with bloody gloves and pads and plastic packets. I would investigate the empty bottles. I would put them to my nose and sniff and feel tingling and try to decode names ethereal and potent as Greek gods. Pentobarbital, Nembutal, Propofol. One time, during the school holidays, my old man brought home a chucked-out IV squish bag of something that my mum explained were colloids, large molecules of heterstarch that couldn't pass through cell membranes, specially concocted for people in renal. The problem was the squish bag had a patient's name and barcode on it, so Dad and Mum were both charged by the board with leaking confidential patient data, apparently. Massive overreaction. Dad just wanted to entertain his 12-year-old, but the medical review board sacked my father. He cried in front of the board, some kid told me in assembly. Licked his wet moustache, dripping on the toolbox on his lap. Hands wringing the straps of his overalls, holding on to a tiny piece of hospital. Mum retired a month later, because she couldn't cope with the gossip at Blessed Sacrament at the school gala on the wards. The Gore Working Men's Club wouldn't renew Dad's registration. The Musical Society voted in a new secretary instead of Mum. The disgrace was radioactive. 2 well-meaning hospital workers fucked over so the board could demonstrate its power. Decades of hard-earned reputation ruined within 1 week. So I made a plan. While I ran the Balclutha Beast across green Southland hills. My plan was I would find the hardest discipline in the hospital, and I would conquer it, and I would come home, and I would slap my accreditation in front of the Board of Review. I would redeem my parents' ruined reputations, tackle anaesthesiology as my major, the hardest subject with the highest standards. I would keep people on the live side of death. Didn't seem like my class at Otahu had any fellow fuck-ups though, so I kept that whole backstory to myself. There was no time to discuss anything except study anyway. We battled through each week, long shifts, SWAT sessions, throwing test questions at each other in the showers. I was one of the last to start using Ritalin to nail down our brains for assessments. Senior male doctors would prescribe it to the girls in my class in exchange for a date or the chance of a blowjob. We would party to balance every exhausting assessment. Resident Supervisor Dr. Joshi, Dadu, did a tour of the dorms early in the night, to check that we were still alive, but instead of scolding us, he just dropped a bunch of cricket jokes and kissed the girls' cheeks and called them Betty and squeezed their knuckles. Betty meant daughter, and that's what we were to him. We were his beloved kids. He would tisk and chide, but he would forgive his children for the occasional blowout. Our partying was just a nighttime thing. It was just a phase before we got back to sober study. 'Cause Dadu trusted us. On our St. Patrick's Day party in the halls, we all had to prove ourselves by guzzling a goon bag of wine hanging off an IV stand, while a circle of shiny young docs whooped it up, everybody wearing scrubs and disposable smocks. This real tall girl called Maya, from some North Shore horse farm, the only female anaesthesiology major, was strong enough to hold my legs vertical all by herself while I went to work sucking on my wine stand upside down. I could hardly concentrate. I stared up her tree-trunk legs, her muscular chest. Fell in love the wrong way up, I guess. A solid 9 out of 10 for looks. High forehead, a self-satisfied, superior face, intelligent eyes, Rapunzel hair that could pass for blonde or chestnut that grew down to her hips. Longest hair in the class, of course, to send a message to the other girls that she was winner. Loud private school speech competition winning voice, powerfully beautiful with a manly ass-kicking tomboy vibe to her. I knew a couple dudes in the class had tried to bang her and she had laughed and shoved them. I'd watched her in pediatrics, making sick kids giggle, blowing up rubber gloves like chickens. I don't think she was faking the loving kids stuff. More like she enjoyed being amongst the rainforest wallpaper and the yellow rubber toys to get some relief from the bureaucracy, the constant warnings and consequences and tellings off. Plus, I guess if Dadu saw Maya giving extra examples of care, it would separate Maya from our pack. Made her a stronger candidate to score the NS Joshi Trophy for resident excellence. The party got too intense, and I puked before she could tip me the right way up, and the IV stand's fizzy, bubbly wine sick went into my nose, and they had to check my airway wasn't blocked, and as I writhed in a lake of bile, I ran codes in my head. Code for procedure for an airway blocked with Hawaiian pizza pineapple. Maya stood over me, guzzling Jägermeister and laughing at me, floundering. She told me if I named the 12 steps in a ventilator inspection, I could come for a private party with her, whatever that meant. Minutes later, I was crippled in the bathroom, struggling to get up off a pile of laundry. Wasted, but not wasted enough to override the switch in my brain that told me to wake at dawn and get to my lecture and annihilate everyone who thought they were smarter than me. Especially annihilate Maya with her fail comments after every time I got the ventilation steps mixed up. She collapsed on the laundry too, and alone, together, we started flirtatiously nipping each other with exam questions about when to use a Quink cutting tip needle instead of a Sprott pencil point. Maya said she had some shit on her, so we locked the door and we practiced drunkenly injecting, missing the veins, stabbing holes in our skin until we spurted. Would have seemed insane to anyone who didn't have an exam first thing in the morning, but we were superiors. We were winners, dedicated after-hours angels in training. We were supposed to draw our fluid only from a bag of saline, but she told me she had chucked in a little vercuronium muscle relaxant for flavouring, and we injected, snapping off a needle tip each and wincing and picking it out with dirty nail clippers. And we laughed until we fell asleep in our laundry pile, stoned, useless, floppy pins and needle limbs. Comb it out, I dreamed. Dreamed about the Joshi Trophy. Dreamed about sailing over shame. Dreamed how my parents couldn't find any work after the hospital and had to claim their union pensions early and spend it on depressants because there was nothing to do outside the house. Mum would sleep all the time, empty bottle beside her on the nightstand. Noises coming from her lips that I would identify years later as hypopnea of the upper airway with an associated decrease in oxygen saturation due to the gin-choked liver struggling to dredge up enough cytoplasmic enzyme alcohol dehydrogenase to oxidate the ethanol and turn it into cetaldehyde. All my disgraced mum could do was piss the gin out, lying in a puddle, blackening the bed. And pissing the bed was good then. Pissing the bed meant her liver was still talking to the kidneys, not backing up and poisoning her. The alarm dinged on my phone. Oof, sunlight. Bluebird sky. 7:32. Fuck. I had to get to class. I washed my face and armpits and under my ballsack with hand soap. I reconstructed last night. Maya on the floor behind me like a dropped marionette. I kneeled over her, studied the movement of her slumbering lips. Her esophageal tract was cramped. I adjusted her head, brushed a sticky curl away from her brow, hovered my lips over hers, nearly kissed her while she slept. She was in paradise. No exhausting dressage events to please her mum, no swatting, no senior doctors yelling, just unconscious bliss. I walked to my grand round, groggy, picking bits of pizza ham out of my ears, jelly legs from that flavour that Maya had squirted into us. I felt no stress, though. No anxiety, just a white limbo of nothing. Lecture Theatre 4, East Wing of Middlemore. A 40-minute run that I managed in 21 minutes on pain-proof legs, arriving in an auditorium in front of a projected slide reading Red Flags in Circadian Variation of Anesthetic Drug Action on Airways. Dadu was in professional mode today. He was warming us up for the visiting lecturer. I would shine this morning. Well, me and the only two other kids who wanted Provisional Anaesthesia Association Fellowship. That was assuming we could function while still wasted. The guest lecturer looked like a lizard in a lab coat, scaly silver stubble on a skull face. I didn't like his presentation straight away. It was about what to not do instead of what to do in surgery. Like, it was all about how when a patient is sleeping, you have to mask yourself, else you can get a mouthful of aspirated anaesthetic each time the patient exhales. Small doses, but it's addictive. It basically makes you drunk at work. You find yourself slurping boozy breath like a vampire. Bro, you can sniff all the old-ass Sleeping Beauty's breath yourself, bro, somebody said to their mate, and the class cracked up while the lecturer stood somberly in the projector light. Dr. Niraj S. Joshi, our godfather, waved his hands, started snapping spot questions about hypopharyngeal blockage by endotracheal tube during laryngoscopy to calm us down. He asked how to code the blockage, and I told him code 2222, and he said, Mr. Delightful, grinning so wide I saw gold on both sides of his mouth. But tell me this, important child. Tell me how many one-day international test caps MS Dhoni is having. 156, I guessed. It is 158 test caps, hillbilly. There was an answer from the voice of... Oh, no way. Answer from the voice of the lanky, Barbie-legged Maya. How is she even here? God damn. The only way she could have managed to surface from her coma and chuck on jeans and heels and her lab coat and race down on her bike and take a seat in the row ahead was if she was even more competitive than me. Maya was blocking my adulation from my dadu. Congrats, dude, she snickered. You made it to the top of the bell curve. Down in front, Statue of Liberty, I whispered back. She half turned her head and sneered. Fuck you, needle dick. Make me. She said in a low voice. Beat me in the exam on Friday? Maybe I'll fuck you. I phoned Dad. I told him that I didn't quite have a girlfriend, but I did have, a girl who was a friend. Dad always answered the phone quickly, because he hardly left the house. The Gore Working Men's Club was basically his only place to go, but they had kept on accidentally not making him a full club member, which to me was some Catholic, conspiratorial blackballing shit, like he was an embarrassment. Like the poor dude wouldn't get full member till I'd passed my fellowship exam and I'd become fully registered with ANSCA, the Anaesthesiologist Association. Dad was just excited that glory would soon reflect off me. Excited that I was young enough to have not fucked anything up. Obviously, I had to limit how much truth I told the old man. I couldn't tell him about drinking alcohol upside down, injecting Ritalin, ketamine, STD checks, all that jazz. I would ring once a week and he would wait by his landline, afraid of cell phones, afraid to change anything in his life, thinking that he had brought bad luck on himself. I think Dad understood my excitement, imagined he would have a successful son and the community would restore his reputation and he'd get a successful daughter with Maya. She was trouble though. I'd never found anyone as competitive as me until I met Maya. Big body, big heart, pumping big blood into a big brain. Pumping as we staggered up Mount Tarawera and Taranaki and Tongariro. Pumping as we jogged Meals on Wheels to the granny flats and ran sausage sizzle fundraisers for the hospital daycare centre and powered through study-a-thons. We got obsessed with one-upping each other, and she usually won, usually got her rounds done way before mine so she had time to cuddle anorexic girls like baby birds needing Maya's big wraparound hugs. A dancer since the age of 4, Maya was 2 inches taller than me, even without high heels, which she put on when we'd drive her up to her dad's yacht club for oysters and champagne. Pretty exhilarating high life, I thought, though she would always get us stoned in the car beforehand. She found the glitzy shit so sucky she would dig her nails in my skin if we had to suffer conversation from her parents. Maya's old man was a forex currency trading advisor, whatever that meant, and he negged her constantly, whether he was in the country or on some Zoom call. Never smiled. Couldn't even hear about the toys we had fundraised for the hospital without complaining about government underfunding. Disappointed in his wife, his daughter, disappointed in fucking everything. Maya couldn't wait till she had a good enough job to say no to his money. Both of us couldn't wait to outshine our family fails. Just had to get through 3 years until we got the big tick from the medical council. Or I got the tick. Anyone could become an anaesthetic technician, but to get anaesthesiologist fully registered, there was only one opening a year, and her and I would fight for it. That was half the reason Maya liked me, actually. I was a threat she could stay ahead of. I kept her moving forward. First time we kissed was with blue, numb lips on a mountaintop. Sweet, slow sex in the hostel that night. No tingling lubricant, just passion. Every other time we made love after that, there were 3 of us present. Maya, me, plus an enhancer. Some puff on a pipe or pill or powder or lidocaine cream to make our private parts tingle. Pillow talk was the only time she chilled out. See, Maya's mum was a Matakana winery manager / alcoholic. The woman would absorb her husband's negativity and then blurt out subtle barbed disses about every one of Maya's achievements and then try win her daughter's affection back with a credit card shopping spree. Maya wasn't into money. Her happy place was playing Patch Adams, reading dumb joke books to hollow grey cancer kids awaiting surgery. And I think that was her escape from her folks doing loving things for strangers. She'd stick tongue depressors up her gums and play vampire and make the wee ones giggle, trying to get high off good vibes. Our difference? I was more about the old ladies, the ones that should have been at hospice. They would squeeze my hand and talk about the 60s, trusting me because I was cute and innocent looking and resembled the son they imagined they were talking to in their morphine days. Me, I needed them to be my mum. My mum who'd fallen into everlasting sleep. These old ladies, I'd prep them for surgery. I'd be there at their side, squeezing their dry leaf hands as they entered the theatre for some total hip arthroplasty, gas them, and, if I got permission from the clinical director, I'd pour painlessness into their blue rivers while I whispered reassuring words, ear against their ribs, feeling the racing heartbeats descend from 100/60 to a cooler rhythm, knowing the dope in their bloodstream was keeping them cozily comatose while the surgeons drilled and sawed. 2.3% of over 80s would die during surgery, though their deaths were steamy, warm, and they went out smiling. Just a sunny Sunday sleep in. Neither of us said that our relationship was official, but that's the thing when you're on drugs like love. You never put words to it. Every time we came back from our increasingly boring dates, we pulled off our tuxedos and gowns and reached for something to get high. Pills, often. Needles for something more fiery that would really wash the stiff day out of us. Not that we didn't love each other, just needed some salt and spice. Maya gave up the sex midway one night in her childhood bedroom at her mum's place, announced, "Boring," started rummaging in her drawers. I made some comment about how we were knackered from the Rangitoto triathlon, but that was bullshit. We had the fitness to fuck all nighters, just we both knew that there was no excitement if we weren't stoned, like a race we could do indoors in our own bodies. Maya tossed aside her childhood rainbow scrunchie and a pad of stickers. She found a blister pack and she slipped a bright, shiny 80mg tablet of OxyContin between my lips, and soon I couldn't stop falling through the clouds. She used her strong arms to hold me inside her, while turbulence tried to flap my body away. I was skydiving towards the landscape of her body, and when I slammed into the earth, I came so hard it felt like my heart was being sucked down into my stomach and shot right through her. I panted for 10 minutes afterwards, heart galloping, right ventricle forcing furious squirts through my pulmonary valve. By 12 minutes, I got Maya to fetch her heart check, to confirm that my BPM was coming down. "Babe," I gasped, melting into the mattress. "Oh my God, that oxy's gotta be the best shit on the planet." "You got a weak heart on you, gore boy." She had slowed her breathing so she wouldn't seem as exasperated as me. "Carfentanil is the best on the planet. 500 times more potent. Tell me when you can get some. Seriously." "I wish. Only Dr. Joshy can get you a script. 3 milligrams and you're dead. It's like breaking into Fort Knox getting that shit." Before I knew it, she had pushed a pill inside me again. Maya put her hands on her ankles and pulled them up around her ears. "That one was dilaudid, by the way. It'll get you toasted," she sang, laughing, swigging from a bottle of champagne off the side table. She grabbed a hunk of my hair and mashed my face inside her. "Now hurry up and get me off. No way you should be ahead." 2 years left. It snowed where Dad was, down south. Floods too. Cold lightning, blistering frost, black ice. But Dad always hung by the phone, hung on me, like his life was in limbo, depending on the success of his golden boy. He kept asking when would he get to meet Maya's parents, and all I thought was, God, if our parents met, it would be so cringe that we would need an elephant load of dope just to cope. Or just a little carfentanil. Me and Maya might have gone all the way and actually gotten married if work wasn't so busy. From the moment that I locked my bike till the moment that I left the hospital, my days were about waiting for disaster to strike. Code blue, racing sneakers squeaking on the linoleum. Always something that somebody needed to urgently fetch from the dispensary, and I was always locked out. There would be no code to dispense meds till I graduated. We would come home, pop wine, open the fridge, find it empty, roll our eyes, find a needle and some clean skin. Getting high was what I did to congratulate myself for no fuck-ups, and getting high was what I did to recover from stressful days. It didn't matter that summer went cold and trees started shivering their leaves off and browning the footpaths. I lived in a heaven of artificial light. All that existed for me now was white wards and sleeps between shifts. I was amazing as an intern, and there would be a career waiting for me as soon as I graduated. Others in my class squeezed in 10-minute meditations in quiet rooms when they were overwhelmed, but it was like, fuck you guys. Losing 10 minutes is how rivals get ahead of you in the race. Using some soothing podcast to relax your racing heart. There is a pill for that, y'all. Get it in your blood in 6 seconds, and that means you got 9 minutes extra to pursue the Joshi trophy. Or hell, mainline this shit. Mainlining is more efficient than waiting for your stomach to break down some pill, and it's far healthier than guzzling alcohol at some surgeon's soiree. Me and Maya agreed. It's just a little bit less glamorous, that's all. Sifting through the rubbish for drugs, sucking intravenous Demerol out of rubbery tube snakes. Taking home a whole sharp spin and reaching blindly inside, the delirious sting of a needle sticking into my hand, pulling it delicately out like a skill tester at the arcade, breaking open the needle barrel to lick the syrupy goodness if we needed extra, pricking our gums, biting glass and steel. The little squeaky anaesthetic technicians with their pathetic 3-year degrees always joked about us sleep doctors being like pilots, complete control of an anxious vessel. Patients trust us to soothe their racing hearts, depress the plunger of some syringe full of anaesthetic. The plane takes off. Watch the monitor for hours, putting your nose to the lips of the patient so that your words enter their ears as you cue, "Time to wake up, sleepyhead." Applause occasionally if the chief read the printout and approved the heart rates that we had maintained. Anaesthesiologists are the most valuable in any surgery team, $500,000 to train each of us, which is why Dadu trailed behind us, demanding reports in that accent that never left my ears. Hard to please the guy till he went away and I could go rummage in the surgical garbage. Patients, half-used, anaesthetic bottles on my trolley, supposedly headed for the incinerator, went inside me. Unopened bottles or blister packs, when I could get them, were smuggled out under my nutsack. Maya and I would bump into each other in the corridors, and we'd both be walking white as cowboys, secret treats stashed around our private parts. "Howdy, partner," we'd wink at each other. We'd smile and kiss if we had enough gear to give us a good day off, scowl and stare if we didn't. Getting through Grand Round's lectures became difficult as quicksand. Just seeing the word dilaudid made me dream of eyelids snapping open, irises dribbling colour, isoflurane, blue flame, pure and clean. Demerol made me imagine Dettol, cleansing, crisp, whiteness, clean. Vecuronium sounded like a Roman noble. Nembutol, numb. Respirodol, respiration. Fentanyl, the fountain, a spray of bliss, compared to all the thanklessness and patronising and word whippings and worry at work. Laudanum, pethidine, tapentadol, made my ears hear numb, pith, dol. Coma words spelling softness and slumber. And after hearing the words, I would volunteer for some obstetric nerve block so a mother wouldn't feel the torn-in-two agony of childbirth, and I would guide the tip of a Tui needle expertly into the patient's lower thoracic nerve, push her towards her cauda equina, feed the milk of the poppy inside the patient's dura mater, walk crisply out to the corridor, hide in a closet, Mum's cozy woolen Ugg boots I could fit my fists in, her shawl on my skin, and I would tear off my sneaker and sock, and I would jam a needle between whichever toes weren't gooey with infection, and I would plunge the needle deep between my toes, like putting metal in my foot so I could keep on walking. We met with a real estate agent who seemed impressed with us. Bright white couple, crisp clothes, even if they were a little baggy and my belt was tightened to the last notch. We were impatient and fidgety and flinchy and obsessed with numbers, and we bought the townhouse closest to the hospital. Got the deal done within a week. AstroTurf townhouse in some maze-like warren of identical new builds called Tuscany Estates in Flatbush. Each Tuscany estate had a rug-sized allotment of grassy lawn, a little soil with a bow-tied gift in it, a gleaming brand-new fancy copper spade, as if elite professionals would have time for gardening. It even came with a little storage shed to park the hiking poles that never got muddy, the scuba gear that never got wet. Not that we went outside our own damn property. We only worked and slept and resented each other. I would usually leave meds taped to the bathroom mirror if I scored first, and she was expected to do the same. Of course we lied and stopped sharing, though. We stopped being intimate, too. There was a Thursday morning attempt at sex that we both knew was our last fuck. Pieces of us crumbling off, rubbing ankles and shuddering at the fresh flesh fragments flaking. Our interlocking legs scraping open scabs that spurted custard, ruining our expensive sheets. I couldn't even go out and find a new partner. No woman wanted a guy who works all night and all weekend. Besides, any other girl in the world would soon learn I didn't do dinner and drinks. There was only one way I could relax. It was not as if Maya was getting sleazed on by the senior doctors anymore either. Hair coming out each time she brushed, teeth falling out of dry gums. Her periods stopped, and neither of us could shit, our backed-up bowels full of concrete. We tried to hang out with the boys from the dorms once or twice, though everyone started dispersing to Vietnam or Canada or the South Island, anywhere but South Auckland. The few left were starting to understand there was some battle going on inside me, some endurance race, so they didn't talk to me. Friendly young Scottish doctor in the break room once, stylish, sexy earrings I wanted to stroke. Could have tried to ask her out, but she wouldn't want me to wrap an arm around her, not when it was streaked with blue punctures and antibiotic cream. Knotty purple scars where I had hacked broken needle tips out. Couples counselling was broached, just once. Maya called it quackery, and that was the end of the conversation. "Oh, what? 'Cause we haven't fucked in months," she said, scratching the scabs inside her thighs, examining the black rot under her fingernails. "Give me a break. Name one thing clinically wrong with us." While I tried to find a response, she geared up for work in a $350 dress that her mum had bought her. She put on her outside face. She went to work, squeezing the wrists of old Maori battalion war veterans with a teabag skin and melanomas, listening to their stories, upping their morphine, taking home any extra. Me, I went to work a couple of hours after. I pulled on the white coat with my name embroidered on the breast pocket that Dadu had given only to Maya, me and the other anaesthesiologist, that Kyle Krishna narc. I checked the surgical schedule and selected operating theatre 28 because there had just been a gastrectomy and I could see Mrs. Edina Leach had been given intravenous fentanyl just 30 minutes ago. I was about to go in when Dr. Joshi ambushed me, telling me Otago's visiting students were scheduled for an inter-schools cricket comp and we were going to kill them. I laughed along with Dadu till he was out of sight, then pulled a mask up over my face, tiptoed to the dark side of the theatre, avoiding clangy, rattly pans and trolleys. I reached into the rubbish, found the patient's catheter bag, still warm, rich with glowing orange piss. Within the piss, my fentanyl, my happy holiday. I signed out sick and went home, certain that Maya wouldn't be there. Ran a shower. The steam and droplets blocked thoughts. My arms were so track-marked, it looked like there were comets under my skin. My femoral artery, my femoral vein was too risky to inject, too close to the femoral artery, the one that empties you in minutes if you cut it. And most of my leg veins were too smeared with antibiotic cream to work with. I found one last unexplored area to push in Mrs. Leach's 16-gauge needle filled with gold. Like a pleasant drink of brandy, really. All the senior doctors drink brandy, bro. Just do it. Except the seniors' glasses weren't pulled out of the rubbish bin, crawling in flesh-eating gangrenous bacteria. I aimed just past the bulbo-cavernous artery and the urethral tubes. I stuck the needle at the top of my scrotum into my dorsal vein, deep into my dick. The agony didn't matter. Seconds after injection, the medicine nudged the stress out of my cells, and my body thanked me straight away. Fentanyl, yes, Christ, where have you been? I had needed this all my life. I thought of my mum, rejected and refused and redundant. Thought of her wasting weekends lying in bed with a novel on her stomach, slumbering. Thought of putting my ear to Mum's chest to check if she was alive, blissful. No public shame. No disgrace in Sleepland. I leaned in real close once, thought about it for ages, and then pecked a simple kiss, crawled into her closet, hid with my head among her coats and scarves, watched her through the crack, watched those final few millilitres of alcohol overwhelm her liver and break it, her liver spitting bile back into her blood, shocking her heart, killing her. I watched pink food colouring in my brand new stone resin bathtub darken to beetroot juice. Our immaculate Tuscany Estates townhouse, white and perfect as an unboxed microwave, now stained with raspberry sauce. Blotches and then drops, and then there was a steady trickle of blood as I groped to try pull my head back together, two halves of my skull on two sides of the bathroom. My phone on the vanity, ringing and ringing, Dad's name on the screen, calling for his weekly shot of pride. I'm going to pay you back for this needle, Dick. What the hell was... Oh, God. Never thought I'd end up in a hospital bed. Simulation, this thing, a test. It had to be. I'd never been caught slipping. Maya's voice. She had a little girl in a wheelchair, midway through taking her on a wee tour to cheer her up. Colostomy bag sticking out the child's side, though the girl was looking at me like I was the fucked up one. Another voice beside her. Dr. Joshi standing over, sour face, dressed, weirdly, in his South Africa T20 World Cup Pro shirt signed by Kuldeep Yadav. I realised it was Dadu's day off. For him to be here was pretty damn serious. I sat up. My scalp screamed. I tried to finger each of the stitches behind my burning ear. Lost count after 70. Please, 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 please don't tell my old man I'm so close to graduating. Psychic vibes that I hoped Dadu would pick up. More pressing, though, was I reached down to the foot of my bed, grabbed my chart and read my notes. Arseholes are giving me that sedative that kills you if it mixes with opioids. What's it? Clomethazole. Yeah, Hemanevrin. Yeah, come on, you guys. I'm not that bad. I know this shit is designed to act as a positive allosteric modulator at the barbiturate picrotoxin site of the GABA receptor. I know this. Fuck, let me out of here. I know you're trying to prevent my GAGA inhibitory neurotransmitters tickling the electrophysiological responses to excitatory amino acids and... Beta, child. Dadu sat on the edge of my bed, then got up, glaring at the blanket on my legs, as if he had sat in shit. He had a couple of attempts at making a long-ass lecture, and then cut himself short. Your employment and your study will be terminated, child, if this continue. For now, we will formulate an alternative path. I'm not out, Dadu. I'm not. It was a tiny, unforeseen slip. I have never slipped. You do not do this to me. So drug-fucked, I don't even know if the words made it out. He sighed. Your personal, more immediate... He gestured towards my bandage cocked. You are having severe urosepsis infection, child. Your antibiotic, it is needing to be oral. The tablet, because we could not find a vein. When you get home, you are taking ceftriaxone only. Any drug you mix, it will be causing toxic shock, child. So no more of this. He waved his hand over the blanket on my rotten crotch. It was dark, where I had pissed my pants, pissed the bed, urine weeping out of holes in my dick like a shower head. He shifted his gaze to Maya. She was spinning her little wheelchair friend around, ready to go see more deserving patients. I'll update your father for you, Maya announced. Shiny eyes, massive fake smile. I'm going to fucking kill you, Maya. You are helping a friend unwind at home? Oh, he's unwinding all right. She came over, leaned in leaned in to apply a staged kiss and hissed through her fangs, "You're gonna die if you try this again. Eh, babe?" Final year. Maya woke at our townhouse in the darkness of a June Thursday, 5:45, groggy, forgetting that it was the blackest part of the year. She opened the door to pick up the AliExpress package of Pokemon lollipops that she had ordered for pediatrics. She missed her step and crumbled, her thigh turning black as her artery cracked on hard concrete steps. She got a femoral endarterectomy for that, the surgeon sliding in a stent graft via pullback catheter and leaving her in a plaster cast for a month while the artery healed. It was a warning. It was a near miss, before we finally fell. Our engagement anniversary came up not long after. I broke the news to Maya at home, in front of the TV. Kyle Krishnan was getting the trophy. Maya was watching Zoo Vets on Discovery, her immovable plaster cast leg up on the glass coffee table, resting her phone on her junior jumbo joke book, scrolling the hospital's Facebook page, leaving likes and hearts and kisses. On screen, a tiger was being sedated with 3 milligrams of carfentanil. On TV, that was. "Crack it open." "Huh?" Maya thumped the coffee table with the heel of her plaster cast, and it shattered. She used her leg-scratching fork to point at me. "Hurry! Got some shit in there." "What do you mean you got some shit in there?" "There's fucking Fenties stashed in my cast. Get my shit, boy." "But I can't open your cast, babe. Your artery is still healing and you can't bend. Would never bend." I went outside and I took the unused, undirtied copper spade from our rug of lawn. Still a ribbon bow-tied on the fucking thing. I hefted it. I stroked the cutting edge. Not that it had ever cut anything. "I love you, Maya," I told her. "Obviously. I just need my fucking meds, alright? Crack the plaster off already." The first few whacks busted the plaster. The last whack cut into her wasted, soggy muscle and cracked the bone and split the artery. Maya tried to sit up and reach for the fentanyl she imagined that she had stashed down her plaster cast. All I saw on the carpet was crumbled plaster powder. A red tongue lapping out of her leg, spurting like a drinking fountain, the leg flesh green and covered in pepper. Black splotches of gangrene bacterial clusters eating out pockmarks around each needle crater, the muddy stench of salty decay. Small pieces of dead meat crumbling away like blue cheese. "Might need," Maya began, trying to shunt her rotting leg up the couch. "Might need a paracetamol. Mop it up." She tossed her Jumbo Junior joke book onto the plaster sticky carpet and began bleeding to death. Dadu chased the stretcher down the corridor towards Operating Theatre 12 as Maya slid between alive and dead. Where they had cut her track pants away, I could see the core of her, blue and fat with leaked blood. Clamour in the hallway outside the OT. Dr. Joshi wiping tears off his glasses. "Dadu," I told him, I know I'm not on this, but I gotta help, you know. I need your code, man. Let me get her meds, please." I raced to the dispense right with Dr. Joshi's code, and I got the propofol I'd been asked to fetch, and I signed out a bunch of carfentanil too. And on the way back, I paused with the vial in my hand, licking my lips, just staring at the prize I was holding. 24 delectable carbons, 30 hydrogens, a couple of nitrogen and oxygen atoms positioned on the compound just so. Symmetrical and beautiful. I was standing outside a giant, white, clean pair of patient toilets. I could lock myself away right now. I could take a vacation. I could escape all the stress. No, resist, man. Patience. 8 people in the theatre, half of them just healthcare assistants, squeezing bloody water into buckets, picking up chunks of leg cheese. They kept having to expose more of the thigh to get at the femoral artery and to tie it off, until one of the nurses shrieked something about gangrene, about the rot spreading up. It had to be cut off. I handed over the glass bottle of injectable propofol emulsion. Kyle, Dr. Krishnan, snatched the drug, matched the bottle to a tube to pump the milk into Maya, to force her deep under, and elbowed me away. I didn't leave. I stood on the edge of the theatre. When no one was looking, I depressed 10 milligrams of carfentanil into her propofol line, and her vitals dropped, enough to put 3 tigers into a deep-ass sleep. Her face went from purple to white as she lost a full litre of blood, and then 1.5 litres. I knew she'd want me to do it. Carfentanil melted away a decade of tension. Every time the team tied off Maya's severed artery, it retreated further up into the muscle. Her spade-shattered bone was jagged anyway. The splinters would fill her leg with infection. The surgery team unwrapped a bone blade, stuck it on something resembling an electric knife, strapped her body to the table, sawed her leg off close to the hip, while my love lurched and spasmed, her shoulders struggling, slapped down like a mummy. When her numbers dipped and some argument broke out, and they all crowded around the computer, I scurried to my Maya. I bent over her for a farewell kiss. I sensed carfentanil glowing on her gums. I stuck my tongue in and lapped up the last of the drug. Her plane fell from the sky. By the time they found me sucking what I needed from her lips and called security and tied up my arms like pretzels, her leg was off, and the surgeon was battling upstream against a spurting artery. It spattered his goggles, and when he washed them clean, Maya was gone. So that's me. That's my story. To answer your question, this damage on my face, the bruise around my eye, my twisted nose, you try buying what you need on the streets. It's almost impossible. A highly educated doctor with a posh accent has to be a narc, you know what I mean? Anyway, Claire, I want you to know that the board had no one else to run this therapy thing, and that's why we made a deal. If I do a diploma in applied counselling and help you guys out and get my hours, maybe in the future I'll get back on the wards. They have to keep me anyway. My lawyer reckons that Gore Hospital exposed me to trace amounts of opioids that caused my addiction from day one. We could sue Auckland University Medical School too. They are responsible for exposing me to microparticles of aerated anaesthetic that I inadvertently inhaled, which over time caused dependency, and, well, that's my story on paper anyway. It'd be a scandal if all this escaped the airing cupboard. That's how come they let me stay on here, stay on in my new helpful capacity. Anywho, I need to phone my father shortly. But before you go, Dr. Manadambona, Claire, you need your hours ticked off, don't you? Your hours of counselling. And I know you're a good soul, and I know that you like to help people. And I know you've got a code to sign stuff out from the pharmacy.